Hey, welcome. Welcome to the nap, where we do a preview of all the buffoonery that has come to pass and will be repeated again. We're streaming on 3 platforms: Rumble, CommuTube, and X. Please give us a thumb up, follow, share, and subscribe. And most of all, the chat is up, so please feel free to ask anything. Keep it clean and don't be abusive. Comments drive the algorithm. I'm not driving the algorithm down with my forbidden words. We will preface the question period today with the nap, the no answer period. We preface the review with the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. So let's not keep us waiting and get straight to the insanity. Here we go. And where is our screen? So question period is due to start at 2:15. And of course, House Comes will be sitting at 2. Of course, they will do the Canada first, and then there'll be probably some statements by members, which means they will start a little later. Now, as always, for the last couple of shows and shows prior to that, last week, because the insanity was starting then, we were covering what was happening with the ostriches. So here's the latest update and what has been happening this weekend.
Air hole, and then there's the throat hole. You do not get anything into the first hole. That's going directly into the lungs. Any water in there will kill the ant. You have to put the tube through the second hole, holding her head up. It'll take 2 people. We usually have 1 person hold the head up. The other person puts down the tube, hang on to the bottom of the beak and the tube at the same time. The other person...
You see what's happening here. The CFIA, if you're not aware of the situation, decided to call this entire herd of ostriches because they had flu run through the herd. Probably got it from a wild flock of geese that stayed on the land in Edgewood, BC, where the flock stays. That's what the owners figure. But they treated their herd and the herd recovered. Some birds died. CFIA came along and tested 2 of the dead carcasses using a questionable polychain reaction test, finding that those 2 birds had avian flu, and now, of course, the entire flock was marked for death. Well, since then, of course, they've treated the herd. Now the herd has survived. In fact, a lot of people are wondering, why are you calling the herd if the herd is healthy? They said, oh, well, avian flu could spread. Well, it says, well, they haven't got it. Well, they're like, well, yes, we've tested the birds and they have it. Well, actually, you have not tested the birds. You tested 2 dead carcasses. And this has been an ongoing discussion online with a lot of other people and why the government will not answer. In fact, the pro-call experts that we've been talking to online, they refuse to acknowledge the fact that the birds, the live birds, have not been tested. They will use weaselly words and they will try to change what they're saying and try to make it seem like the birds have been tested and this is a good thing, when in fact it's not. And now, of course, this has been gaining international attention. And of course, the CFIA is so incompetent that they have to be shown how to care for the birds. And this entire scenario, apparently they're following international regulations that we have signed on to, and I'll show you they're not doing that. Now, if we just look at the National Library of Medicine, right, and they talk about stamping out and culling animals from an anthropocentrist to One Health ethics, right, where you just mass kill everything. Here's a comment on their ethics. Animal culling is one of the main public health policies, used extensively as population control measures for various reasons, including human safety, conservation, or for disease control. In particular, hundreds of thousands of animals on average are killed each day throughout the world to control outbreak of zoonotic diseases. Yes, that is true. There are some very contagious diseases that you don't want to run through your herd or through other adjacent herds in other communities, and some that are very, very, well, contagious. But those are regular herds. You're usually talking about meat animals or animals that produce stuff that we consume, like chickens, right? Whereas opposed to this herd, that's not what this herd is for. These animals may be wild, farm, or urban. and they may be killed for the protection of humans or other animals. Example, cows during foot and mouth disease outbreak in UK woods 2004. Other than direct harms to the animals killed, culling is extremely costly and may be harmful to humans in indirect ways. Oh, no kidding, right? That's all people have been asking for. Is just be reasonable. Be reasonable. Like test animals to see if they're still healthy, but they won't do that. Now, even if it comes to culling, right, what are the directions that the actual terrestrial animal health code does that apparently the World Health Agency that we're falling under for this tells you to do? And what do they tell you to do? They say here, following the decision to kill the animals, killing should be carried out as quickly as possible, and normal husbandry should be maintained until the animals are killed. Normal husbandry means that the farmers, their owners, are the ones who know the normal husbandry, not these clowns, right? Who need videos to show them how to take care of ostriches. And a little bit more on this.
But I want to get back to CFIA because I find it incredible that you don't of your animal, your birds right now. You can't verify anything, and it seems to me when I watch what they're doing, and I saw, the latest video I saw, somebody was documenting more bales of hay being brought in for this circle of execution. CFIA, to me, and I guess it's a twofold question. First of all, they don't seem to have any knowledge or expertise in dealing with animals. They seem to be either dense or deliberately cruel. And we saw the video of the one ostrich who was obviously suffering from dehydration, and was unable to even stand up. And a lot of commentators, including myself, are wondering, is the CFIA deliberately not doing proper medical procedures, proper health procedures, because they want these animals to appear sick so they can then, and they've already done this, of course, and go to the media and say, look, these animals are sick. It must be H1N1 avian flu. We're right all along. They won't test them, but they'll play these games. They'll set the media up with these incredible mind games that they're playing right now. And is the CFIA even vaguely competent to do this kind of exercise? And why are they continuing to act like the Supreme Court said they won't hear your case? They continue to act like it's a fait accompli. And this is what really worries me. And even though I think we are going to win this, but what worries me when I see the CFI acting like they already know the outcome, and this is a fait accompli, so let's just keep preparing for the slaughter. And is that the impression you're getting from them?
Absolutely. There's such ego in this. And let's talk about that whole the hen and if they're, who knows what they're giving them in their food, or how are they treating them, or what is their animal welfare behind these walls that they're building, and why did they cut all the wires on our cameras out there? Why did they put tape over our cameras? What are they hiding? We are not hiding. We haven't hid anything. We're being as transparent as possible. They know how we were operating. And we've tried to have amazing communication with them.
There's a lot more to that. I suggest you go to Creighton's Right with David Creighton. He has his own podcast every day. He podcasts on both Rumble and YouTube. That, of course, is Katie Paisley over the Universal Ostrich. And it's absolutely incredible that this amount of incompetence is being tolerated, even by the ministry itself. Well, of course, we know the ministry is quite incompetent, right? Because they wouldn't even answer in Parliament last week when asked. When asked, they said, well, we're not going to comment on that because it's before the courts. Yeah, that's always an easy response for people who want to work in darkness like this. But they're getting desperate. It's even though, I mean, David here says that, maybe they're going to win, but we don't know. We don't know because we know that these psychopaths, right, do not care about life, morals, or ethics. And that is why This I thought was a perfect little picture here. Mark Carney doesn't give a shite either. And of course, Katie. Katie has had to. Oh, that's the next video. Let's just listen to this part right here.
Mr. Trump, President Trump, this is a cry out, a plea from Canada. Please stop the slaughter of almost 400 healthy ostriches that are going to suffer today or tomorrow. We need a miracle. The world has been calling on a miracle. This is of interest, as you know, I know you know. Yeah, you would say hello. They are claiming that these animals are virulent and that have a virus and that they're sick, but instead these ostriches hold the key to humanity with their antibodies that can help with therapeutics and new innovative science that can actually make us less reliant on vaccinations and pills. This is for our children. This is for...
Now, there's a lot of claims about this as well. Now, of course, there's been some dispute about whether or not this was properly done in the application, and I don't really care. I don't really care about the bureaucratic aspects or whether or not they were properly doing their paperwork for what she was just talking about now. It is obvious that government overreach is, and that is the central state coming in all the time and just taking advantage of you because they can. And that's why people are getting behind this. That's why they're saying people are online are like, well, why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about that? Why are we talking about the hostages? We got bigger things to deal about. This is overreach. And it touches every other aspect in our society that the liberals are trying to control for us. They got 4 bills on their way right now to take away even more of our rights. Well, they'll do it under the guise of safety, of course, right? But only because they haven't actually applied the existing laws to keep society safe. Let's move on to the next panel. Ah, yes. So, aligned advocacy. This is brother of Viva Frey, actually. He has a law firm here in Canada. And he's reminding us here that, I'll just state what he says here. Leave aside the bizarre neurotoxic side effects that have yet to be understood, or the fact that spike protein can stay in your body for months/years, or the fact that some jurisdictions are now banning messenger RNA. How the heck do they plan on coercing so many people to take this? And what is this? Well, a Globe and Mail stating that Moderna to roll out first made in Canada COVID-19 vaccines this fall. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Canada has spent billions on the pharmaceutical industry since 2020. And yeah, how's that going to work out? Well, I don't know. But we do know that the people who complained about having our lives destroyed with these, my personal opinion, fascist medical mandates, especially if you're going to coerce people into an experimental messenger RNA gene therapy rebranded as a vaccine without informed consent because the inserts were blank initially when they rolled it out and there was no informed consent. In fact, a lot of the things we were concerned about, they wouldn't talk about. And as a result, people are still being persecuted, which is why Greg Wycliffe made this song. And I told him today that we would play it on this show.
To Marilich and Chris Barber, Daniel Beaufort and Randy Hillier, that's just for starters. Jeremy McKenzie and Morgan May, Artur Pawlowski, of course, Pat King. These are not just random names, they've all been attacked and been defamed. It's people persecuted by the Canadian government, all for daring to stand up and voice their opinion. If you disagreed with vaccine mandates, well, sorry, you still got more court dates and a lot of lawyer fees to pay. Pastor Hildebrandt fined over 250 grand. Detective Helen Bruce punished for just trying to tell the truth. Frontline nurses like Kristen Angle attacked and smeared from every angle. Dr. Hodgkinson Phillips Shoemaker just did their job and got more haters. Jansen, Marco, and Van Herk, when your country betrays you, yeah, that hurts. Morin, Olenek, Carbert, and Lysak spent years in a remand jail. Years from their families that they won't get back. It's people persecuted by the Canadian government, all for daring to defy popular opinion. If you disagreed with vaccine mandates, well, sorry, you still got more court dates and a lot of lawyer fees to pay. Well, Pierre Poilievre talks about the carbon tax. Real patriots in this nation just keep getting fucked in the ass.
Do you think you've been persecuted for your political opinion?
100%.
Truckers beaten in the streets gleefully by the RCMP. We got receipts, scars and broken hearts, bruised ribs. If you're Chavez, no, it's not easy to watch CBC. Your teeth, you don't speak for me. How can you even say this country's free when there's people persecuted by their own government? All 338 representatives, they don't say a word about what actually happened. They're all traitors if it's me you're asking. And the only thing stopping it from happening again is the bravery of the names I just mentioned.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So I had the honor and privilege.
So, Greg Wycliffe has been working on a documentary, and where is it? There it is.
I was at the Freedom Convoy where I saw truckers beaten on Wellington Street right outside Parliament Hill. I've been to protests where I've seen high school students beaten by Antifa while police and members of the teachers union watched. I've seen pastors, protest organizers, and Canadian patriots thrown in jail, all for what they believed. What is happening in Canada? There are now countless Canadians persecuted, all for voicing their opinion. And who is telling their story? I'm Greg Wycliffe, and I'm producing a documentary called The Hate Network. It's all about how Canadian institutions target, censor, and smear Canadian citizens who dare to disagree with the ruling ideology. Here is a sneak peek preview.
When I was growing up.
So please support Greg in his endeavor. This is a very important message. If you go through the end, I know they're still trying to raise more money to finish up the editing, but other than that, it looks like they're pretty well almost done after a year's worth of work. Now let's get back here to Line Advocacy, reminding us that they're going to be rolling out these COVID-19 vaccines. And why should we be not taking them? Well, the CDC releases information, and of course the Canadian government does not want you to know this.
And there's a lot of people, yes, a lot of people listen to you, but there was just this big meeting in Washington, D.C. with the CDC, and it was a coming out, the truth coming out party. None of that is on the mainstream lying legacy media. None of that is on cable. None of that is on Fox. None of that is anywhere, but you sat through, what, a 6-hour meeting? Give me some highlights about what came out. First of all, they came clean that this injured and killed people, these shots.
Well, thank you for having me back. And again, hello to your audience. I love you guys so much. So this wasn't just a meeting. This was a regulatory meeting, meaning that under the codes of federal regulations, what happened during these meetings, what the policies that were voted on, the content that was reviewed, the evidence was reviewed, is now going to become policy. Okay, this wasn't a dog and pony Senate show hearing, or Senate testimonial. This was a regulatory binding legally binding meeting. So I want to be clear about that. So it was the administration for the Administrative Committee on Immunization Practices. What does that mean? It's the CDC's advisory panel for vaccines. And the first day was about Hep B and MMRV. We won't talk about that now. So the second day was primarily focused on the COVID-19 shots. And what happened during this, again, this is a regulatory meeting. It is that there will be policies and actions taken from this meeting. What they discussed was the plasmid DNA contamination that was found in the Pfizer vials. That was disclosed. Also in the Moderna vials, the fact that the DNA limits for the FDA for levels in a biologic is 10 nanograms, and Pfizer and Moderna exceeded that, hundreds fold higher. Plus the fact the DNA at the 10 nanograms, when it's combined with the lipid nanoparticles, a world-renowned oncologist stated that then it goes straight into the nucleus of the cells. There was a 10-minute presentation on the genetically induced types of myocarditis that are caused by the shots. There was extensive presentation by the framing discussion group, that is the informed consent group, if you will. That's another way to say it, where Professor Levy straight up said that the risk for myocarditis in healthy children, there is a correlation. It is there. It's not something, it's not questionable. He said when you have two teenage boys die in their sleep within days of getting a shot, when you have a known mechanism of action by the biologic, if you will, that was injected into them, you have a known mechanism of action that's going to cause the myocarditis, and that myocarditis can lead to death. He goes, when are we going to be honest and truthful with the American people? Yet they're saying when someone gets a positive test for a respiratory virus and then they attribute that to a cardiac death, and we don't have any scientific explanation for it. So many things came out. They're also going to be recommending against the use of the shots in pregnant women. It was disclosed that Pfizer did complete a study in pregnant women. About 350 got injected with the mRNA lipid nanoparticle tech. 50% got injected with something else. So it's about 150. And there was 8 incidences of birth defects in the injected group, and 2 incidences in the group that was injected with whatever they were injected with that was not mRNA. And that's a 4-fold increase. And Dr. Martin Koloff, the chairman of the committee, ran the p-values, and it was statistically significant with a 0.05 p-value. So there's just a lot to unpack. And this is accountability is coming.
But these shots are no good. They didn't work. I heard the fired CDC director talk about, it lowers the amount of COVID that you get if you get the shot. No, it doesn't. That's a lie.
No, it doesn't. So that came out in the meeting as well. So Professor Levy he straight up said the actual real randomized clinical trials that we do have from the manufacturers that were submitted to the FDA, they did not show a decrease in hospitalization or death. They in fact did not show that. They in fact showed harm. So even from the best data that we have available, which is the randomized clinical FDA trials, he said there's absolutely no evidence that they reduced hospitalization or death, and in fact they caused harm. So that was
in other words, they're no good. The shots were no good. They didn't work. They made people sick and killed them. Correct? That's what the shots did.
The breath,
which was what you said 5 years ago. I got it written down. I have you on tape. You said this 5 years ago. I remember the first time that you came out of your mouth, this is a bioweapon. And I hope she's right about this.
I said they can only cause disease, disabilities, and death. There's going to be very aggressive cancers out of nowhere. There's going to be new autoimmune diseases that doctors aren't even going to be able to recognize. And children are going to be suffering from sudden death due to myocarditis, which Professor Levy said as well. He goes, the narrative around subclinical myocarditis being something mild or transient has got to stop. Because we need to tell parents the truth that subclinical myocarditis, which could be, according to one of his slides, as high as 3% in the children. And I think that the evidence is going to show it's much higher. But we need to tell parents that the subclinical myocarditis that's caused by these shots can lead to death in their children. We have to tell them.
Wow, come on.
Yeah. Heart damage leads to heart failure. That's it. When they say, "Oh, mild myocarditis," yeah, that's heart damage. Heart damage is heart damage, whether it's mild or severe. It's permanent. You cannot fix heart muscles. Right? The only way to fix a heart muscle is to replace your heart. That's not going to happen. We warned everyone about this. A lot of us are canceled. A lot of us are removed from X at the time. A lot of us were treated like crazy people for looking into the science and knowing and seeing what was coming. And what she described there, this was repeated by several other authorities that were also removed. Now here in Canada, well, you just saw, they're getting ready to roll it out again. In fact, in the Canadian Armed Forces, it's still a requirement to, right? You go through your operational requirements, and right there it is, CDS Directive 003 Annex A. 3 injections. Right. Now, why would a government do this? Why would a government be so insane to hurt their own citizens like this? Well, it's because our government is not in it for us; they're in it for themselves. Why do we say this? Well, let's just look at what's happening in the other 3 countries. Not so much New Zealand, but I guess UK and Australia. And what are they doing there? Well, they're rolling out digital ID. And of course, in the UK, there's a petition running. It's run real hard and look at this. It just keeps updating constantly. They're probably going to hit 3 million before the end of the week of signatures of people are saying, do not introduce digital ID. It's ridiculous. I released a video yesterday, Yuri Bezmenov mashup, and he talks about 4 stages that communism, or in this case, cultural Marxism, uses to destroy a society. And one of the aims that they do is that they flood your country with mass immigration. They don't apply the existing laws, or they make it impossible to apply the existing laws or social systems, so they all start to break down. And then, because they've created a problem, well, then they have the solution, right? And their solution is more control, more tyranny, and of course the imposition of digital IDs, because illegal people going across their border on little dinghies are all concerned about making sure they're going to be getting a digital ID when they get there, or to get through there. This is all planned ahead of time. We've been warning, and everybody sees this. It's transparent what they are doing. Absolutely transparent. So,
Break, halt! This is a Brit card checkpoint! Break, halt! This is a Brit card checkpoint! Present identification for labor allocation!
Sorry about that. I want to play this video. It's hilarious, but it really wraps up how the Brits think about this digital incursion into their lives. Let's see if we can do this right.
Break, halt! This is a Brit card checkpoint! Present identification for labor allocation!
I've got me card.
Brit card valid!
Proceed.
Next!
Please,
relocation!
You know what happened last week, Rodders? They shut me down. Council fella turns up, flashes a badge, all because I wouldn't take one of them flaming Brit cards.
You got closed for that?
I said, cash only, pal. He says, no Brit card, no light.
You will recognise Palestine! Recognise it immediately or you will be exterminated!
All right, I recognise Palestine, I swear. Just don't hurt anyone.
Affirmation received! Identify yourself! Present Brit card for service!
Sorry? A Brit card? I've just got a bank card.
Brit card required! Proof of Britishness mandatory to procure.
Sir, no Brit card to board this bus. Present it. Present it I immediately. haven't got one. Look, I've got cash.
Can't you just take
Payment
that?
in currency is not accepted. You are not compliant.
Wait!
I'll get off all right. Just let me.
Produce your Brit card.
My what?
You are consuming without authorization. Show the Brit card or face sanction.
I don't know what that is.
Product vaporization.
I could stay like this forever.
Violated Brit card! Intrusion detected!
What the? Is that a Dalek?
Human, you have shared an opinion on social media. Present your Brit card.
My what? I don't have one.
Unacceptable. You will be vaporized. Now present your Brit card.
I don't have one, mate.
Non-compliance, exterminate.
My chicken!
Now, it does sound rather silly, but some of these are true concerns. Now, over 12,000 citizens this year in the UK have been incarcerated for saying hurty words. It's like an average of 5 a day and climbing of UK citizens that are being arrested for saying something that the government, their totalitarian, authoritarian government, thinks is bad words to say or politically inconvenient. So they are releasing real criminals and then putting in all their political prisoners. This is the future for Canada right here. If they want to introduce digital ID, this is going to be the same bloody thing. But before they get there, they've already got 4 bills underway to take away our time. Well, here's Truth Seeker, and she covers exactly what I was just talking about.
In the open-air asylum I like to call Canada, aka North Korea 2.0, the liberal regime that has been pretty much infiltrated by the World Economic Forum, China, and also India, is now tabling a bill where they can actually take your internet and your cell phone provider and just shut it off with absolutely no due process, court order, or anything. The government can go in and just say, oops, we think there's foreign interference, so we're just going to cut off your provider and you're not allowed to be on the internet. Yeah, isn't that great? Let me just show you this. So there's something called Bill C-8, and it's a legislation aimed at strengthening national cybersecurity and protecting critical infrastructure by providing the federal government with new order-making powers for telecommunications companies and requiring the removal of high-risk foreign manufactured equipment, such as that from Huawei, from networks. While intended to enhance security, the bill has faced criticism for its broad powers and potential impact on privacy and encryption, leading to calls for more robust safeguards and considerations for its implications on cross-border data flows. Basically, our already infiltrated government by China, by India, and by the World Economic Forum is now saying that we would like to put in a law where we can just cut off an internet and cell phone provider if we deem it to be dangerous for cybersecurity. What's cybersecurity? You're already run by China and India. You're already run by the World Economic Forum. So what security? Oh, right, I know exactly how the liberals work, right? They're going to say it's for your safety, but it's actually for their control. And unfortunately, in Canada, we have a lot of vaccinated and boosted people who will look at this and go, yeah, that's true, right? And that is like the problem. Oh, and then it gets even better. The government's literally coming in to take everyone's guns, even more. So they started slowly in kind of like a link chain step in 2020 on taking away our guns. First, it started off with scary guns, where they literally put the Black Rifle Coffee Company on the list for a little bit because they're stupid. And they thought that it was a pew-pew making company, not a coffee company. That's the intellect of our government. And now they're going after hunters and hunting rifles. The exact same thing that they said that they wouldn't. But don't worry, it's voluntary in Canadian voluntary terms, right? So that means you have a year to sell your guns back to the government, and if not, they're criminally gonna come after you because it's voluntary. Yeah, North Korea is looking like way more free than Canada lately. And I know what a lot of people are going to say. They're going to be like, no, it's not that bad. It's for our protection. You bet. Get another booster, bud. Actually, get 2. Actually, get 3. Actually, I'll drive you there myself. Yeah, because it's safe and effective, just like all of these laws are for your safety. Wake up, Canada.
Let's taste how much we are in trouble with Canada. I mean, the amount of authoritarianism by these psychopaths Well, what did you expect? You let them get away with murder. All these people that got injected, that are dying or have died, or have been injured and been abandoned by a failed vaccine injury support program. Right. People would say, well, Canada, you got what you deserve. Now, how's our economy looking? Well, Kearney's economic record is pretty blatant. Right. Well, we've covered this before, every episode. Now, in my release yesterday of the Yuri Bezmenov mashup, of course, Yuri warned us about back then, which was still the USSR and the Soviet Union, and how the KGB would infiltrate the West, and how 85% of their activities were not actually directly linked to espionage. They were linked to cultural subversion, which has worked. We had the red diaper doper babies of the 1960s, and they messed everything up from then on. Now, red diaper doper babies were allowed to become in the 1960s in the universities and colleges, especially throughout the United States, because of the communist movement that was allowed to exist, even if so underground, throughout the 40s and 50s, even though the United States tried to get rid of them. Now, of course, eventually this has morphed into various things. We had affirmative action down in the States where, obviously, in order for that to work, some people had to be more equal than others in order to get Marxism, to ensure that, oh, but it's okay to have some people more equal than others in order to address past harms. Yes, because there must always be a victim in order for the oppressor to be dealt with. So you always have to create a crisis of some kind. And the easiest crisis to produce is to just convince somebody that they're being oppressed in a free society when they actually aren't. And you keep pushing this message over and over and over and over again until they're just unhappy, completely unhappy with the society they live in. And they will do anything to change it. They will scream, they will curse, they will show up at protests. They might even do some violence, right? Because the ideology of Marxism allows for violence. And we have inculcated this throughout every government department. DEI is now a staple in every part of our government. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. A very anti-Christian and bigoted organization of thought that eventually has just completely destroyed everything. And you wonder why is everything breaking down in our society? Why are federal services becoming less efficient even though they keep hiring more people? Why is everything so screwed up? Let's watch Gad here. He might be able to shed some light.
We've seen DEI essentially replace meritocracy and this liberal top-down ideology in federal research, and which is, by the way, funded by taxpayers. So it's essentially a government-sponsored ideology that's being implemented onto our public institutions. So, do you think that this has an effect of censoring academic freedoms and has the effect of being reverse discriminatory on groups that are considered not adhering to DEI?
It has a huge effect on censorship. The most dangerous censorship is self-censorship. So I receive thousands of emails that always say the exact same thing. Dear Professor Saad, there's a bunch of compliments, and at the end it's, if you decide to read this email on your show, please don't mention my name. And the person who writes it is a postdoc, is a doctoral student, is a professor, all of whom are happy that I have the courage to say what I say. They would love to say it, but they know that if they do, they will lose their position in the lab, they will lose their position for funding, and so on and so forth. This is not Yemen. This is not North Korea. This is not communist China. This is happening in Canada and the United States. Wow. This is grotesque.
So this entire system that has been put into the government was slowly being brought in. And then, of course, since the COVIDity stupidity was planned ahead of time, once they brought in those mandates and had a lot of people working from home, a lot of people having to do business over Zoom or Microsoft. I don't remember what the hell we had to use it at work at the time, but it wasn't as good as Zoom, I tell you that. The government Microsoft app that they were using couldn't even let two people talk at the same time without your voice stepping on the other guy's words, and you couldn't even actually hear them. At least Zoom, you can have more than one person talking, right? Oh, no, it's too dangerous. Can't have Zoom, so I have to use this other app. Anyway, with everybody isolated, they decided to bring in the full force of the DEI. Right, every department fully had them all set up at that time. They started having their struggle sessions, and by then, of course, now they're bringing them in, and people are having struggle sessions with masks on. When I say struggle session, you should look that up, what that means in China when they were having struggle sessions to make sure that, oh, get your thinking straight. They all sit around you in a circle and berate you until you start loving the Communist Party, and that's the same thing with DEI. You have your little struggle sessions, and you're like, hang on a sec, this stuff doesn't make any sense here, and then they will just berate you, and if you try to throw any common sense at them, well, then obviously you're a racist, and then you will be marked for execution of your job. I'd say marked for execution, but usually you wait a couple of years for the Marxists to go full murderous, right? As we look at our next panel. Now, how did we not know all the stuff that's going on in the government, right? Remember when Trudeau first got elected, and hidden thing that they have done over the last year and a half, and that would be in June 2024, when the Speaker of the House ordered the Liberals to release all the SDTC documents, 5,000 plus pages that were all redacted, blacked out, that the committee needed to see. And the Speaker of the House told them, well, if you don't present this is an order of the Speaker, right? If you don't present this, if you don't fulfill this order, you cannot conduct any business in the lower house. So from then on, the Liberals, until the election, could not conduct a single piece of business. They couldn't read a second reading on a bill. They couldn't introduce new bills. The only time they could do any kind of business is if all the parties agreed, which they did for at least one emergency, right? So, and even after that, they reelected them, right? Of course, we know what's going on, and every time we ask for information, we get nada, bupkis, zero. And even when they provide information to fellow MPs, they still have the audacity to black it out. Well, here they are abusing access to information law to avoid releasing documents, says the watchdog, and that is no surprise, because we've been seeing this with our very eyes. But people like Robert Fife here, who's now just reporting on it, we've been seeing this for the past 10 years, but Robert Fife is not going to report on that because, well, a good chunk of his salary, close to 30,000 bucks of it, comes out of your pockets, taxpayers, because that's how the Liberals have set up authorized media. The QJOC, Quality Journalism of Canada, that he belongs to, that only approved media in Canada can hold, and because of that, well, they're the only ones that are allowed to put stuff online or put stuff in print or put stuff on TV that is approved. And the truth, as far as that relates to the law that the Liberals changed in 2019 that used to say that you couldn't say a lie as a journalist, but they removed that law in 2019. So now these people here that are getting close to 30 grand of your money every year to be journalists can also lie to you and never have any issues whatsoever. But if you're an independent journalist and you say anything and the government decides that it's misinformation, disinformation, or a lie, you will immediately be prosecuted because you don't belong to CJOC. Sorry, QJOC. You're not a QJOC. So you can't lie with impunity. But if you're a QJOC, you can. It's legal in Canada. That is the Canada that we live in. Becoming more and more communist every day, seems like. Michelle Ferrari. Oh, we're at 2015. We should really check to see. Well, of course, they'll be singing "Oh Canada" right now, so we've still got some time. Let's just go to do a quick refresh on this and into the House of Commons.
For Fredericton or Romocto.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the list of Grand Council.
Right, and of course we're doing statements. That's what we figure they always do. Where were we? Ah, yes, Michelle Ferrari. Actually, Michelle Ferrari is also in my video that I released yesterday. regarding the Yuri Bezmenov mashup. Now, what's she saying here? Breaking. The Auditor General confirmed what Conservatives knew from day one. The Liberals promised $10 a day childcare, but families who need it most aren't getting it. Wait lists have exploded. Spaces sit empty, and low-income families are being shut out. This was never about kids or parents. It was a vote-buying scheme the Liberals could never afford, and now families are paying the price, just like their lunch bag scheme. Right, and that is the normalization of poverty that communists want you to accept, or in this case, cultural Marxists like the liberals. Right? They normalize, they screwed up all of society with spending their money nonstop, bringing in a bunch of people that we couldn't handle at the time. They overwhelmed our immigration system and then let crime go loose because they changed the law allowing criminals to go on the street. Meanwhile, still going after legal gun owners, right? Not that we can even use our guns to even protect ourselves. Because they create all these problems in order to normalize poverty so that they can implement these virtue signaling things. And then, of course, when they talk to their uneducated base who think the left is just wonderful, what a check I'm getting in the mail, while ignoring all the drug addicts dying on the streets, or the people lining up at the food banks, or people losing their homes, or people fleeing Canada with their wealth, or the fact that we have no new trade deal you doing, Canada. You're making it impossible for us to do business. And why would that be? Why would the Liberals want to destroy all the businesses in Canada? I know why. Another story that's been following, just not too far from here, over in Picton. There's a good story by Tamara Ugolini. She is a national treasure working for Rebel News. She works out of Coburg, and she was covering this story in Tim Hortons in Picton, where apparently someone there was offering a minor 20 grand to marry his brother so he could, stay in country. Anyways, a lot of people have been following the story. But the other thing about this story that is getting people upset was that they don't like the way the cop talked to the guy behind the counter. And I was thinking, no, it's, you know what, there's nothing wrong with the way the cop talks. If people get upset about emotionally about how they're being talked to, that's why we have problems in our society, right? Because people don't have any emotional maturity anymore to deal with things. So they play the victim every time. I don't like the way the cop talked to that guy. Are you bloody kidding me? Of course the cop's upset. You just brought him in here to waste his time on this. And that's his frustration that he's displaying there. Not because the guy is a certain skin color, is wearing something on his hat, or he might be a certain ethnicity. None of that whatsoever. He's pissed off because you're wasting his time. They got better things to deal with in their society, especially with everything else breaking down, other than dealing with this BS. In my opinion, that's how I saw this. Now, let's give this a quick.
The owner called, but he's not here. So he's claiming that that gentleman who was trespassed came into the store.
Not the gentleman, the lady.
What lady?
The one who's running the.
Yeah. And what's wrong with that?
So he said that no one, she's trespassing into the private property.
How is she trespassing?
He was standing in the lobby.
She is an independent journalist. Mm-hmm. She was never trespassed from this property, and she has her 100% rights to be here. Just because your boss doesn't like the fact that an independent journalist is in here video recording, that's not up to him. She has the right to do that.
I can call him.
I'm not going to. No. I'm not going to talk to him. You tell him that she has all the right to be here. I'm not going to entertain that. You tell that to Mohammed. I'm sorry if I'm being crass with you, but you relay that to Mohammed that I'm not even entertaining that portion of it, of this lady being here. It doesn't matter. They have all the rights in the world to do it.
Now, that was very refreshing for a lot of us to hear and see, especially having seen how the police have treated independent journalists throughout Canada in various cities, especially Montreal. I've shown anyway, in past videos, how they treated Natasha in Montreal. And we've seen a lot of Rebel News reporters get arrested and assaulted, and while the other people doing the assaulting just be left alone. And this is becoming normalized throughout various police departments. In fact, the most disturbing thing that I think I've seen today was David Menzies over at Rebel News reporting that he witnessed a crime. He did a video on it. He had the license plate. They actually tracked down where these people live. The crime that he witnessed, he was actually in a liquor store, and they came in and stole a bunch of booze. And he walked outside, following with his camera phone, and recorded it. Did the investigation, found out where they live, went to report it personally, and they wouldn't take it. And they said, no, you have to use the phone. He tried to do it through the phone. He keeps getting disconnected. He had somebody else there with 10 grand stolen from him, and they wouldn't talk to him either. And it's becoming impossible to report crimes in Toronto. So if you're a criminal and you want to get away with crime, Toronto's your place to be, because the cops aren't even arresting people anymore. And when the cops refuse to take your complaints or reporting crimes that's being committed on you, that is the precursor to complete social collapse. Sorry to say, Toronto, but you are just about to fall into complete societal collapse if you don't start doing something about the crime. And it looks like you're not doing anything about the crime. So nice knowing you, Big Smoke. Looks like you're going to be in serious trouble.
Why truth and reconciliation is listed in that order. It starts with the truth.
Would lead to more investment.
We've started.
Let's go back. Is down by 10%, the worst investment record in the
opposition. That's why we're going to thing called
alarm. After the Prime Minister broke his promise to, quote, negotiate a win with the Americans by July 21st, lumber tariffs have more than doubled, and job losses are piling up. Cap Paper is potentially laying off 300 workers in Northern Ontario. That's on top of 800 workers who are losing their jobs at Imperial Oil. TransCanada and Enbridge are building more in the United States as their headquarters move south after the Prime Minister broke his promise to build, baby, build. Doesn't the Prime Minister realize that when he doesn't do his job, Canadians lose theirs?
Here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Here. Mr. Speaker, our sympathies are with the families of the workers at Imperial Oil. Our actions are with the workers and the management of Cap Paper, who are having meetings with the Minister of Industry, a variety of other government officials today to work. Our support is foursquare behind Algoma Steel, with $400 million between the federal government and the province of Ontario to build Canada strong.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Since he took office, 86,000 more Canadians are unemployed, and we have the second highest unemployment in the G7. This is all the result of out-of-control government spending and taxes. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians, and now the Parliamentary Budget Officer rates his deficits as, quote, very alarming, stupefying, shocking, unsustainable. If you don't change, this is done. Something is going to break. We are at the edge of a cliff. Those are the words of the Parliamentary Budget Officer. When will he stop his out-of-control spending? When he's over the edge of the cliff?
Here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there's a little thing called cause and effect. And the cause that the Leader of the Opposition is missing is the U.S. tariffs. The U.S. tariffs that are hitting steel, the U.S. tariffs that are hitting lumber, the U.S. tariffs that are hitting our auto sector. That's why we need to build this country strong. That's why we're getting spending under control. That's why we're going to spend less to invest more. I believe in this country, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the...
My ear investment off video, I destroy that argument.
Deficit spending is up almost 100% since this Prime Minister took office. And as for investment, it has fallen. In fact, $50 billion of net investment has left since he took office. And yet he repeats the same promises the Liberals have been making for a decade. They said their deficits would lead to more investment. Since they took office, investment is down by 10%, the worst investment record in the G7. In fact, with $600 billion more debt under this government, investment has fallen How much more debt would they have to add on the backs of Canadians to reverse this disastrous result?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, it's time for a little fiscal lesson for the Leader of the Opposition. Strongest credit rating in the world, AAA, S&P, and Moody's. Lowest deficit in the G7. Lowest debt level in the G7. Lowest net debt to GDP in the G7. Biggest potential in the G7. This side of the House believes in Canada. Come join us.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I know that sometimes it gets heated in this place, and recently I said that this Prime Minister was just as irresponsible with money as Justin Trudeau, and I now realize that that was unfair to Justin Trudeau. In reality, he has increased the deficit by almost 70% above what Justin Trudeau left behind. And now the Parliamentary Budget Officer describes this Prime Minister's deficits as alarming, stupefying, unstable, unsustainable. If you don't change, this is done, and something is going to break. How is it even possible for this Prime Minister to be more
Prime Minister? But he believes you.
I can't imagine, Mr. Speaker, I can't imagine why it gets heated in the House with language like that.
Yeah, exactly.
The former Prime Minister. This government is conducting a comprehensive spending review. This government is building houses. This government is building projects in the national interest. This government is building Canada strong. Come join us.
Well done. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mais ça vient d'un vrai expert économique, c'est le directeur parlementaire du budget. Il dit, et je cite, que les déficits de ce Premier ministre sont très alarmants, stupéfiants, choquants, insoutenables. Si vous ne changez pas, c'est fini. Quelque chose va briser. Le Canada n'a pas franchi le précipice, mais il y regarde par-dessus la falaise. Monsieur le Président, chaque dollar que le Premier ministre dépense sort des poches des Canadiens. Est-ce qu'il reconnaît finalement que les Canadiens ne peuvent plus payer les factures pour son incompétence?
Ooh, this is a good broken French answer.
Monsieur le Président, le Canada a le bilan le plus fort du G7. Le Canada a les taux d'intérêt à long terme presque le plus bas du G7, plus bas que les taux directeurs américains. Il n'y a pas de prime ici, mais il y a d'ambition à ce côté de la maison du Parlement. Il y a une occasion de bâtir Canada fort.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised the Canadians would be able to judge him by their experience at the grocery store. Well, that experience is what is now being called struggle meals, where Canadians are now sharing tips on how they can scrounge together meals that are often of lower nutritional value because that's all they can afford. Food price inflation has accelerated to almost double the Bank of Canada's target, rising 50% faster in Canada than in the United States since this Prime Minister took office, promising the reverse. Will he finally axe the Liberal taxes on groceries so that Canadians can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Monsieur le Président, il n'y a pas de TPS sur les épiceries. Okay, there's no GST on groceries, number one. Number two, we cut the carbon tax. There's no carbon tax. There's no carbon tax on farms. There's no carbon tax on grocery stores. There is no carbon tax. No, there's not. On anything under 50 kilotons. Monsieur le Président, but we see the big picture. We know that real wages have been growing every single month since I became Prime Minister.
Well done. L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Monsieur le Président, le gouvernement vient de faire intrusion dans une négociation déjà très complexe au sein de Post Canada, tant et si bien que son geste fait figure de pure provocation dans un conflit déjà très compliqué. Ce faisant, il sème l'incertitude dans de très nombreuses familles et pas seulement celles des travailleuses et des travailleurs. Il sème l'incertitude dans les villages des régions du Québec et, je présume, du Canada. Il sème l'incertitude dans les régions et surtout auprès des aînés. Pour bien comprendre, Monsieur le Président, pour le Premier ministre, est-ce que le service postal est un...
Très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, absolument. Le service postal est un service essentiel. Et il faut avoir une Poste Canada viable. À ce moment actuel, la situation est dure. Alors, la Poste Canada perd 10 millions de dollars jour après jour. Il faut agir, il faut avoir une restructuration. Merci.
Honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
J'ai l'impression que le déficit que le gouvernement est en train de creuser va être plus important que ça, beaucoup, mais si c'est un service essentiel, Monsieur le Président, par pure cohérence, pourquoi couper dedans de façon radicale et de telle façon que même les travailleurs l'ont appris?
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, je viens d'arriver ici comme Premier ministre. Ça fait longtemps qu'il était nécessaire d'avoir des changements à la Poste Canada parce que c'est un service essentiel à travers le pays.
Député de Belleuil-Chambly.
Monsieur le Président, si les Québécois et les Canadiens avaient voulu des conservateurs, ils auraient voté pour les conservateurs. L'approche fiscale des libéraux est celle des conservateurs. L'approche en termes de climat et de pétrole des libéraux est celle des conservateurs. L'approche qui commence à avoir des airs d'austérité est celle des conservateurs avec un emprunt direct. Est-ce qu'il va renoncer à son projet et convoquer des gens sérieux pour monter une réforme d'un service postal qui, en effet, en aurait besoin?
Le très honorable Premier ministre.
Monsieur le Président, c'est la responsabilité de la société, la Poste Canada et les syndicats de trouver une solution entre les deux. Mais dans ce contexte, il faut avoir plus de flexibilité pour la Poste Canada dans une manière consistante avec le rapport de M. Kaplan.
Canada
Every dollar that the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians in liberal taxes and inflation. The Prime Minister should know this. He calls himself a great economist, but he's going to spend over 60% more than even Justin Trudeau did. Parliament's independent fiscal watchdog says this, quote, "It's alarming, it's stupefying, it's shocking, and it's unsustainable." He says something is going to break and that we're on the edge of a fiscal cliff. So why is the Prime Minister going to drive us off that cliff at full speed?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, that's why we said that we need to spend less so we can invest more. Unlike the Conservative, Mr. Speaker, I believe in Canada. I believe in Canadians. I believe in the will of this nation. We have the talent to lead in the 21st century. We have strong industry. We build planes. We build cars. We build ships. We have critical minerals. We have energy. We're the only country in the G7 to have a free trade agreement with all the other G7 nations. Instead of talking about Canada, they should celebrate the work of this government.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, it is this Liberal that in 2015 promised that massive deficits were investments. But it was all a bait and switch because investment collapsed while debt went through the roof. But instead of sobering up from the debt binge that they've been on, the Liberals are just going to keep spending more money in a forever hangover. That means higher taxes and higher inflation for every Canadian. The first step in fighting addiction is admitting you have a problem. So when will the minister stand up and finally admit that his reckless spending is sending us over the cliff?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, same old Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, same old slogan, Mr. Speaker. She might have missed that we cut taxes for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. She might want to talk to people in her riding and across the nation. The first thing that this government did was to tackle affordability. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because that's what Canadians told us. They also told us to build homes. That's why we created Canada Homes, Mr. Speaker. They told us to build the most resilient economy. That's what we're going to do. We're going to build the most resilient economy in the G7. We're going to be strong. We're the North.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
The Liberals assured us in 2015 that running massive deficits was an investment. A decade later, we all know that it was just a bait and switch. The reality is that despite consistent efforts to falsely stimulate the economy, investment in Canada has collapsed. 10 years of Liberal broken promises. Debt up equals investment down. We know that this budget will have a massive deficit, but does the Prime Minister really expect Canadians to believe that doubling down will change the results?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we're retooling the Canadian economy by advancing national projects of interest. We're making Canada the strongest economy in the G7. That means shortening, maintaining the environmental standards, and are working with Indigenous peoples. Mr. Speaker, we are making Canada stronger. It would be great if they would support us.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Another Liberal bait and switch. The Prime Minister promised to cap spending, yet he's on track to double Trudeau's deficits. He promised to make Canada the strongest growing economy in the G7, yet we have the worst economic performance in the group. He promised to create jobs, but in reality, 86,000 Canadians have lost their jobs since this Prime Minister took office. So when will the Prime Minister tell Canadians that the plan to grow our economy was just a scheme to get elected? Yeah.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday I was just out in Vancouver celebrating the launch of LNG to be sent across to our allies. 75,000 Canadians worked on that project, Mr. Speaker. Last week we approved with the province of British Columbia the Silissum LNG facility, which will be as big again. Mr. Speaker, we are building Canada strong.
Honourable member for Northumberland Clark.
Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of hard-working Canadian workers, families and seniors. Justin Trudeau promised that deficit spending would be an investment. The result, the debt went up, the investment went down. That gave Canada the worst economic record in the G7 and the worst inflation in 40 years. No matter what these Liberals promise, the results are always the same. More debt, higher costs, and declining investment. Why should Canadians believe that this time will be any different?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Mr. Speaker, interest rates are down, and when you look at it, wages are growing higher than inflation as we speak. And meanwhile, CPPIB CEO says that the world's largest investors are focusing on Canada. Mr. Speaker, what are we doing? We're building national major projects. We're making sure also to launch a new defense industrial strategy. We'll create jobs in this country, and meanwhile, the opposition needs to come on board to make sure that Canadians benefit from it as well.
Honorable député de Louis-Saint-Laurent à Kewenrak.
Monsieur le Président, chaque dollar dépensé par le premier ministre libéral vient directement de la poche des Canadiens qui nous écoutent actuellement. Le directeur parlementaire du budget qualifie d'ailleurs les déficits libéraux de, et je cite, très inquiétants, stupéfiants, choquants, insoutenables. Si vous ne changez rien, c'est fini. C'est pas moi qui le dis, c'est le directeur parlementaire du budget. Monsieur le Président, le premier ministre est-il conscient que ce qu'il fait actuellement, c'est qu'il conduit directement le Canada dans le mur?
L'honorable ministre de l'Industrie.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. En fait, les économistes ne seraient pas d'accord avec ce que mon collègue dit parce que les intérêts présentement sont en baisse et en plus, si on regarde, les salaires sont en hausse par rapport à l'inflation. Ce qu'on fait présentement, c'est qu'on attire des capitaux de partout à travers le monde. Et notre objectif, c'est de le faire via des projets d'intérêt nationaux comme le port de Contrecoeur à Montréal, par exemple, ou encore la fameuse grande ligne
ferroviaire dans le nord du Québec qui va relier le tout au port du Saguenay. Donc, Monsieur le Président, on travaille sur des grands projets, on veut construire davantage de maisons et on veut également avoir une stratégie de la défense.
Communists in Soviet Russia had the same thing, eh? We will have a 5-year plan, we will build.
C'est le directeur parlementaire du budget qui l'a dit lui-même. D'ailleurs, le premier ministre avait promis de plafonner les dépenses libérales. Eh bien, le directeur parlementaire, lui, confirme que c'est encore une fois une autre promesse libérale brisée. Les déficits de Trudeau sont sur le point d'être doublés. Qui l'eût cru? Et c'est pourquoi, encore une fois, le directeur parlementaire du budget dit « quelque chose va casser » et il avertit que nous sommes au bord du précipice. Sérieusement, Monsieur le Président, est-ce que le premier ministre pourrait se lever et reconnaître qu'il conduit malheureusement le Canada, encore une fois, dans de très gros et trop grands déficits?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Monsieur le Président, le premier ministre conduit justement le pays vers la prospérité. C'est pour ça que Monsieur le Président, on a dit il faut changer l'approche, il faut dépenser moins, comme ça on peut investir plus, Monsieur le Président. Pourquoi? Parce que le Canada, c'est un grand pays, Monsieur le Président. On a des talents à travers le pays. On est capable de bâtir des autos, des avions, des navires. On a des minéraux critiques, on a de l'énergie en abondance et on est le seul pays du G7 à avoir un accord de libre-échange avec tous les pays du G7. Monsieur le Président, de l'autre côté de la Chambre, il devrait célébrer...
I'm sorry, but sometimes I need a break from Kermit. He's just too annoying.
Annoncer sa réforme de Post Canada sans parler aux travailleurs. Ils l'ont appris dans les médias. Résultat, personne ne reçoit son courrier. Il y a des gens qui ne reçoivent pas leur chèque ou qui doivent se déplacer. Les entreprises doivent improviser pour livrer leurs colis. Et le Québec a peur que personne ne reçoive son carton pour voter aux élections municipales. Tout ça parce qu'une ministre a improvisé sans consulter personne. Sérieusement, à quoi d'autre il s'attendait?
Ben oui. Bravo. Honorable ministre de la Transformation du gouvernement.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président, et merci à ma collègue pour sa question. Je tiens juste à peut-être remettre certains faits, me remettre un peu les pendules à l'heure. Ça fait quand même 20 mois que le conflit dure. Le syndicat était en grève en novembre 2024 jusqu'en décembre 2024. J'étais loin d'être ministre. Maintenant, quand elle dit qu'on n'a pas consulté, ce qu'on met en œuvre, Monsieur le Président, c'est les recommandations du rapport Kaplan qui s'est penché sur les états financiers de Post Canada, qui a entendu le syndicat, qui a entendu la direction et qui est arrivé avec des recommandations sensées et sensibles pour moderniser l'institution. Et Monsieur le Président, à 10 millions de pertes par jour chez Post Canada, on ne peut plus se permettre d'attendre pour moderniser une institution essentielle pour le pays.
L'honorable député de Laurentides-Labelle.
Monsieur le Président, la crise des postes est causée par le fédéral. Le meilleur exemple, les passeports. Les gens qui attendent des passeports, qui n'arriveront pas à temps, doivent se rendre à un bureau de Service Canada pour l'obtenir en payant des centaines de dollars. Or, Service Canada, ça relève du même ministre que les postes. Clairement, il n'a même pas pensé demander à des solutions pour des citoyens avant de mettre le feu chez Post Canada. Pourquoi? C'est encore les Québécois qui payent pour l'incompétence des libéraux. Bravo.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous avons un plan pour les citoyens qui doivent avoir leur passeport. Service Canada can quickly support people who have a situation with their passport stuck in the mail, and we are available 24/7 to help Canadians.
Honourable Member for Foothills.
We know that the Prime Minister was misleading Canadians when he cancelled the carbon tax. And I want to quote the food professor, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who stated it perfectly. The carbon tax...
That's... I'd ask the member to start over without that particular language. I mean, inadvertently, but not... I wouldn't suggest that the honourable member is intentionally doing something like that.
Mr. Speaker, we know the Prime Minister was doing a classic Liberal bait and switch when he told Canadians he cancelled the carbon tax. And I want to quote the food professor, Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who put it perfectly. The carbon tax was not eliminated. Only the consumer portion was reduced to zero. The industrial carbon tax remains in place and has actually increased since April 1st. We argued numerous times that the carbon tax across the supply chains is undermining the competitiveness of our agri-food sector. Why is the Prime Minister pulling a bait and switch and taxing farmers and the food Canadians rely on?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, the industrial carbon price is essential to our credibility as a responsible energy supplier and key to gaining market access as we diversify our exports. It's driving over $57 billion of investment, enabling carbon capture projects like the Pathways Project and reinforcing Canada's leadership as a low-emission LNG producer. Mr. Speaker, this is the right thing to do.
So that's why Canadians need to starve. The government needs its money.
Some facts. The fact is, food prices have increased nearly 40% since these Liberals were elected 10 years ago. I saw it at the grocery store this weekend. Pork shoulder was up 37%. My coffee was up 25%. A little package of lunch meat was almost $10. The Prime Minister said he would be judged by food prices. Food Banks Canada has now said a quarter of Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. That should never be the reality in this country. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing, support the Conservative motion, and scrap his taxes on farmers and the food Canadians rely on?
One of four Canadians. Not even the 1930s.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are well aware of who has their backs, and that's why they chose this Liberal government in the last election, because over the last 10 years, they've watched programs for kids, programs for seniors, training for tradespeople, investments in agriculture. These Conservatives vote against it. I hope by the nature of that question, though, that they won't vote against the tax cut for 22 million Canadians. That's how they help Canadians, by standing with them.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar that this Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians in higher Liberal taxes and inflation. Let's start with the grocery aisle. The Prime Minister promised he would be judged by Canadians' experience at the grocery store. And since he took office, food prices have been rising 50% faster than the U.S. Greta from Trout River, a widow, has reached out saying prices on everything have gone through the roof. She can't afford to eat, Mr. Speaker. Will the Liberal Prime Minister stop taxing groceries so Canadians can afford to put food on their table?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, while the Conservative leader was busy trying to get the only job he ever had back, 3 months ago today, we cut taxes for 22 million Canadians, and we're not stopping there. We're going to cut spending on government operations so we can invest more in nation-building projects, in housing, in infrastructure, and in defence. We'll create tens of thousands of good-paying jobs. Mr. Speaker, I ask the Conservatives to cut the rhetoric and get on board. Thank you.
Honourable
that was his response to a widow starving.
Mr. Speaker, the real truth is the Prime Minister has been on this job for half a year, and grocery prices have already become more unaffordable. Right. The so-called struggle meals, like Hamburger Helper and Kraft Dinner, are trending as Canadians struggle with the high price of food, all because of things like the food packaging taxes and the industrial carbon tax. Canadians are judging the Prime Minister. Just like he expected, they're asking, they're pleading for the prices to go down immediately. Again, will the Prime Minister stop taxing groceries so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, today we mark National Seniors Day, and I want to point out that our government has taken action to ensure that seniors in Canada can age with dignity. We're cutting red tape, we're building homes faster, and we've introduced dental care that now more than 2 million seniors have signed up for.
71% of people got dental when they thought they had care from this dental care.
Retirement age higher. It's very rich coming from them,
71% told you don't have coverage. The Liberals lied to you.
While they're voting against support for seniors, we are empowering older Canadians.
Right. You were asked about the starving widow. You didn't get that answer, right?
La vie est hors de contrôle et les citoyens sont à bout de souffle. L'inflation alimentaire est aujourd'hui 70% au-dessus de la cible de la Banque du Canada et les familles paient des centaines de dollars à chaque année pour se nourrir et avoir accès à des aliments de base comme la viande, les fruits, les légumes et le café. Le café a augmenté de 23 % dans les derniers mois et ça menace du même coup une industrie qui supporte des centaines de milliers de travailleurs à travers le pays. Est-ce que le premier ministre réalise que chaque dollar qu'il dépense, sans compter, alimente l'inflation et fait grimper le coût de la vie?
Le café, il est cher que ça. Il est à 6 piastres.
L'honorable secrétaire d'État pour les enfants et la jeunesse.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous sommes déterminés à faire croître l'économie la plus forte du G7 et à protéger et à renforcer les mesures de soutien qui aident les Canadiens. Nos investissements dans les services de garde d'enfants, dans les soins dentaires et l'alimentation scolaire non seulement réduisent les coûts de la vie pour les familles, mais renforcent également le Canada en favorisant
Yes, their answer is, oh, we're spending so much money to help everybody, right? Sure, you will spend more money.
The honourable member for Brampton South.
Today is National Seniors Day, an opportunity to recognize the contribution seniors have made to building our communities and our country. Yet, some are still facing delays in processing old age security and Canada Pension Plan applications. Could Secretary of State for Seniors share what steps are being taken to speed up the processing these critical applications?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Tremendous contribution of seniors in this country. They built this country, and we assure them that this government is working hard to deliver the benefits that they deserve. Service Canada is streamlining applications, increasing automation, and improving communication with clients. We have an action plan to improve the speed and quality of service for seniors in this country, and we will implement this plan. For example, the 96% of seniors receiving GIS are now automatically renewed, ensuring continuity of service. This is the kind of work we are doing to ensure seniors are getting the resources that they have worked so hard for.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, the generation that built our prosperity is now being bled dry by the Liberal government's unaffordability crisis. A shocking new report shows that 1/3 of seniors are covering their adult children's basic costs, and 3/4 say it's draining their retirement. After 10 years of Liberal spending, costs rise and hopes slip away. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of seniors' pockets in Liberal taxes and inflation. Inflation that will further increase with the Prime Minister's plan to double the deficit. How many more seniors will be forced to choose between supporting themselves or supporting their families?
Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, I'm so glad that the Conservatives are showing interest in Canada's seniors. This new government is taking action to empower Canada's seniors, and we are steadfast in our mission to protect the dignity and security of those who built this country through a lifetime of hard work. That's why we are taking action to ensure that low-income seniors receive the Guaranteed Income Supplement. This is a vital support that helps those with little or no income beyond their old age security. We are focused on ensuring that they receive every dollar they are entitled to, because supporting seniors is not just policy, but it's a promise we will always uphold.
The honourable member for King Vaughan.
After a lifetime of hard work raising their families, seniors deserve to enjoy their retirement. But under this Liberal government, that dream is slipping away. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians in higher Liberal taxes and inflation. A new report shows 1 in 3 grandparents are now supporting their adult children and grandchildren, and 76% say it's cutting into their retirement savings. Mr. Speaker, how much more inflation will this Prime Minister add with his plan to double the deficit?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, this government is taking action to empower Canada's seniors. While the Conservatives, with their plan, folks wouldn't have been able to retire until 67. I think it's important to point out that on this side of the House, we're ensuring a strong, stable future for our seniors. We have crucial programs that provide more than $1,000 per month to the most financially vulnerable seniors, and we're focused on ensuring that they receive every dollar they're entitled to. We are steadfast in our mission to protect the dignity and seniors of those who built this country, and they...
The honourable member for Markham Unionville
has destroyed the retirements.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians. The higher Liberal taxes and inflation. A new report shows that 1 in 3 seniors are supporting their adult children and their grandchildren. What does this mean? It means that 28% of seniors help their adult children with rent or mortgage payments, up from last year. This should be a concern to everyone. When the Prime Minister doubles the deficit, how much more will grandparents have to pay to house their adult children and grandchildren?
The Honourable Government
Liberals don't care.
Mr. Speaker, today is, of course, National Seniors Day, and I'm proud to wish all seniors a happy day on their day. I'm also not quite a senior yet, but I am old enough to remember when Conservatives voted against increasing the OAS. They voted against increasing the GIS. They voted against all other supports for seniors in the pandemic. They called it inflationary spending, Mr. Speaker. Did it take National Seniors Day for Conservatives to see the light, Mr. Speaker?
Did you miss the point where inflation is out of control?
Quel est le cadeau de 10 ans de régime libéral pour les aînés? Un rapport accablant qui sort la Journée nationale des aînés qui soutient qu'un président, 67% doivent aider leur famille à couvrir les dépenses quotidiennes. C'est 12% de plus que l'an dernier. Chaque dollar que dépense le premier ministre sort directement des poches des Canadiens à cause des taxes libérales plus élevées et de l'inflation. J'ai une question au premier ministre. Combien d'inflation de plus va-t-il imposer aux aînés avec son plan de doubler le déficit?
L'honorable leader du gouvernement à la Chambre.
Entendu la Journée nationale des aînés, on veut souhaiter une excellente journée à toute notre population pionnière ici au Canada. Et je veux assurer aux députés qu'on s'occupe des aînés, contrairement à lui-même. Il n'est peut-être pas assez vieux pour se rappeler, mais ils ont voté contre la bonification du supplément de revenu garanti. Ils ont voté contre la sécurité de la vieillesse et la bonification pour les gens au-dessus de 75 ans. Et ils ont voulu faire attendre les aînés jusqu'à 67 ans pour qualifier pour une retraite. C'est une honte. Ça prend la Journée nationale des aînés pour le rappeler, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Every dollar this Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians because of higher Liberal taxes and inflation. This Prime Minister said we should judge him based on the prices at the grocery store. Well, let's. Food inflation in Canada is rising 50% faster than in the United States. Food bank usage is at record highs and rising. The St. Thomas Elgin Food Bank will have to feed 30,000 mouths this year, the third straight year of record highs. The Prime Minister said he would turn this economy around because he's this brilliant banker. Why didn't he tell Canadians that on his watch, more than ever would need a food banker?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, one of the best ways to combat inflation is to create real opportunities for Canadians. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to be building. We're building, Mr. Speaker, building homes, building projects in the national interest with Canadian lumber, Canadian steel, Canadian unionized workers, Mr. Speaker. We are optimistic about Canada's future. Will the Conservatives get on board?
The honourable member for Calgary Crowfoot.
Taxpayer dollars paying for optimism.
Plagiarizing again. This time, he's copying his protege, Justin Trudeau. Trudeau promised that deficit spending would be an investment. And what happened? When the debt went up, investments in Canada collapsed. Then after COVID, he said he would remake the economy with deficit spending. This gave Canada the worst growth in the G7 and the worst inflation in 40 years. No matter what Liberals promise, debt and costs go up and growth and investments go down. Why would it be different different this time?
The Honourable Secretary.
The response will be an attack on Conservatives.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. You know what helps Canadians? Cutting their taxes for 22 million Canadians, and that's what we did earlier this year, Mr. Speaker. We're supporting affordability measures with actual policies, not just rhetoric in the House of Commons, not with misinformation. Mr. Speaker, time and time again, these Conservatives have stood up in the House to suggest there's taxes on groceries. Canadians know better. They can read their bill. They can go to the bill. They see there's no taxes on coffee beans. There's no taxes on meat. There's no taxes on craft dinner. Mr. Speaker, when are the Conservatives going to show up with some real ideas to support affordability for Canadians?
We know the manufacturers are being taxed.
Mr. Speaker, that's not an answer. That's just another Liberal bait and switch. The Prime Minister promised to cap spending. Promise broken. The Prime Minister is going to double Justin Trudeau's deficits. The Prime Minister promised Canada would have the strongest economy in the G7. Promise broken. Canada now has the slowest economic growth in the G7. This tired, old, incompetent government has presided over 10 years of economic and fiscal vandalism. When will they finally rein in their out-of-control inflationary spending?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Speaker, on April 28th, Canadians made a clear choice between a leader with business and economic experience versus a leader with none. We are laser focused on cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We are cutting taxes for first-time homebuyers. Interest rates are low, and we will build homes at a scale not seen since the Second World War. Mr. Speaker, we will build the strongest economy in the G7. I ask the Conservatives to cut the rhetoric. Get on board.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
The Parliamentary Budget Officer just pulled the fire alarm. He called our finances, quote, very alarming, stupefying, shocking, and unsustainable. He warned, quote, if we don't change, this is done. Something's going to break. We're standing at the cliff's edge, and for the younger generation especially, this is comes out of Canadian pockets tomorrow in higher taxes and higher inflation. Will the Prime Minister keep marching Canadians toward the cliff off doubling deficits, or will he finally turn back before it's too late?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the Conservatives have been for the last 4 months, but we have crisscrossed the country talking to, consulting, and listening to Canadians. Their message was resoundingly clear. They want us to spend less in government operations, invest more in nation-building projects, strengthen our economy, building the most resilient economy in the G7. Again, please, Conservatives, stop the rhetoric. Join with us. Get on board. Thank you.
Is investing when you're spending.
L'honorable député de Richmond-Tabasca.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le Premier ministre a été pris encore une fois en flagrant délit de plagiat. Monsieur le Président, il copie Justin Trudeau. Non, Monsieur le Président, non. Les libéraux ont choisi le conseiller numéro 1 de Justin Trudeau. Vous savez quoi, Monsieur le Président? Il est pire que Justin Trudeau. Le directeur parlementaire du budget a été cinglant. C'est insoutenable. Les faits, la dette a explosé. Investissement du Canada en chute libre. Pire croissance du G7. Les résultats, coût de la vie qui augmente. On prend la même recette avec les mêmes ingrédients. Est-ce qu'on pense avoir un résultat différent?
L'honorable ministre.
Saint-Louis.
Monsieur le Président, on voit clairement que le collègue a simplement décidé de traduire une question qui lui a été donnée par son chef. Maintenant, notre réponse est claire. Les intérêts, présentement, ont baissé. Nous avons fait en sorte aussi d'attirer davantage de capitaux étrangers. Nous le faisons via nos grands projets nationaux. Nous le faisons également via notre stratégie de la défense internationale. Et nous allons faire en sorte de créer plus d'emplois partout à travers le pays.
Bravo, Mélanie.
Monsieur le Président, aujourd'hui, à l'occasion de la Journée nationale des aînés, nous rendons hommage à la contribution inestimable des aînés qui ont façonné notre pays. Cependant, beaucoup d'entre eux se demandent s'ils pourront continuer à vieillir dans la dignité au sein de leur communauté. Est-ce que la secrétaire d'État peut-elle nous dire ce que fait le gouvernement pour garantir aux aînés le droit à un logement abordable?
L'honorable député de l'Emploi et de la Famille.
J'aimerais remercier le député d'Argenteuil, la Petite Nation, pour cette excellente question. La Journée nationale des aînés est l'occasion de remercier nos aînés pour tout ce qu'ils ont fait pour nous et pour notre pays. Ce gouvernement respecte les aînés qui souhaitent vivre dans la dignité, dans leur maison et leur communauté où ils se sentent bien. Nous avons construit plus de 50 000 logements réservés aux aînés et mis sur la table 1,5 milliard de dollars pour
somebody
l'intermédiaire de
just
fonds
give
de
me Joe Clark
protection de
reading
loyer
Friends instead of
pour
this.
fournir des appartements abordables aux aînés. Nous défendons.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
I'm going to blow up that letter after this screen and see what's written on it.
Crime liberal policy has led to gun crime skyrocketing to 130%. Canadians are being terrorized by violent repeat offenders and gangs, yet these liberals are focused on harassing law-abiding citizens with a gun grab that cost $750 million. The public safety minister admitted the scheme won't work, but he's going ahead with it anyways. This isn't keeping Canadians safe. It's political theatre, and we all know it. When will the Prime Minister protect Canadians and fire this failed public safety style minister?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to announce that the Assault-Style Firearms Compensation Program launched this morning in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. It's a pilot that will be expanded across Canada, Mr. Speaker. I'm also pleased to announce that a number of individuals who are law-abiding gun owners have registered and are looking forward to the compensation that they're going to receive, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are law-abiding people, Mr. Speaker. Gun owners are also law-abiding, and they will be seeking compensation for this program, and we look forward to its implementation across Canada.
That was the best known answer today.
George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Public Safety Minister, while speaking to his tenant on the Liberal gun confiscation program, said, quote, "Don't ask me to explain the logic to you on this," unquote. His tenant, but Canadians know hunters, sport shooters, and other law-abiding gun owners are not the problem. But under this minister's gun crime is up 130%, with illegal guns being smuggled in through his leaky border. Will this Prime Minister finally fire this minister today for not keeping Canadians safe?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Incompetence is rewarded in the Liberal Party.
On all fronts. We are fighting guns at our borders by historic investments. We are in the process of hiring more CBSA and RCMP officers. We have a bill in this House, C2, will help fight criminal organizations and make our borders stronger, Mr. Speaker. But getting assault-style rifles and shotguns out of our communities is also important. We're going to make sure that we do this on all fronts, Mr. Speaker. There are still 19,000
Let's confiscate rifles and shotguns from farmers and hunters. Very good.
And they can use those options.
The Honourable Member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, loose lips sink ships. In a stunning display of incompetence, the Public Safety Minister has admitted that spending $750 million on a gun grab won't work. This same minister has lost track of 600 foreign national criminals and failed to hire the 1,000 additional border guards. Canadians want a government who can keep them safe. But instead of protecting Canadians, this Prime Minister would rather protect his Public Safety Minister and their flawed ideology. The ship is sinking. Will the Prime Minister fire his Minister of Public Safety?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, firearm tragedies are obviously a tragedy in this country. We've had another example, sad example of that today. What Canadians have clearly
shoot you in the head? Is that why you're so stupid?
Government, and indeed all parliamentarians, is that Canada needs to distinguish itself in getting rid of
we've distinguished ourselves under the Liberal, that's for sure.
This party has always supported measures that would accomplish that objective. That party has always stood up against measures that would accomplish that objective, Mr. Speaker. They need to get serious about guns.
We need to get serious about guns by confiscating legal guns. You morons.
I attended a ceremony to honor survivors of a residential school that operated for decades in my riding. Together, we unveiled a plaque in multiple Indigenous languages so that in some small way, they were able to reclaim what was stolen. The elders and knowledge keepers reminded us that true reconciliation occurs when communities have a seat around the table as decisions are being made. There cannot be any shortcuts around Section 35 rights. Can the Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs update us on work being undertaken by the government to ensure that nation-building projects are developed alongside Indigenous right holders right from day one? Thank you, Mr.
Bill C5 will take away that right. And It doesn't matter because you're replacing everybody in Canada with mass immigration, especially the Indigenous.
Thank you, Member of Parliament Ben Carr. Mr. Speaker,
Not allowed to use personal names.
I'll allow the member. I'll allow the member to start over. I'll allow the member to start over without naming names. Let's put it that way.
You're good. You're good.
Mr. Speaker, no project will move forward with honoring Section 35. As the Prime Minister said, meaningful consultation and cooperation are at the heart of our new government's approach to nation building. The Indigenous Advisory Council brings First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from day one to strengthen, not replace, treaty and constitutional duties. With capacity funding and the double $10 billion Indigenous loan guarantee, Indigenous people will help shape and share in the projects. Following the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, we reaffirm our commitment to lasting, respectful partnership.
The honourable member for Kenora, Kiiwetinoong.
Northern Ontario was hit with devastating job news this week, Mr. Speaker, when Cap Paper and Kapuskasing announced plans to close their mill, directly affecting 300 jobs and indirectly many more. The company is blaming a lack of federal supports for this decision, saying that although a program was announced months ago to help, nothing is going to be available in time to save this mill. Mr. Speaker, this is completely ridiculous, and it's incompetence at its worst. Why have the Liberals broken Northern Ontario abandoned?
That's because those companies don't belong to Mark Carney. That's why they're going belly up.
Punch to workers, to their families, and of course to communities. And the federal government is at the table and willing to help. The province needs to come back to the table. That being said, I'm meeting along with the Minister of Jobs, the executives of Cap Paper this afternoon, and we're in solution mode. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government is siding with Canada Post executives to help privatize the postal service. And what does that mean, Mr. Speaker? Cuts to services for seniors, the disability community, and rural areas, while attacking good-paying union jobs. Well, today, Mr. Speaker, postal workers said no more, rallying on Parliament Hill to tell the Prime Minister no more cuts to Canada Post. Why does the minister stop what he's doing, actually do his job, protect public services, and stop attacking workers?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to the contrary, Mr. Speaker, it's because we realize on this side, and we know full well that Canada Post is an essential institution to the fabric of our nation, that we're making and taking the necessary steps to put it on a path to financial viability. Canada Post, Mr. Speaker, is an institution worth saving, and it's an institution at this time that needs saving. It is losing $10 million a day. It needs to modernize. This is why we're taking the steps, making sure that we provide service all across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, actually, Canada Post costs us less per day than the Liberal government and delivers more.
Is there a point of order?
Yes, for Winnipeg Centre.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre on a point of order.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. During question period, the Minister for Northern and Arctic Affairs provided information about the Constitution with Section 35. The bill actually doesn't respect 35 and is in violation of...
It's a matter of debate. It's not a point of order. It being 3:10, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Mr. Barlow relating to the business of supply. Call in the members.
All right, so points of order have to be on actually procedural issues within the House. Right? Like he identified right there. Well, it doesn't matter if the minister lied because they lie all the time. Right? For the Liberals, the truth to them is like a pie crust. It's made to be broken, just like their promises. Well, before we bring the show to an end, I would like to show you 2 videos, and then we will sign off.
Let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an erection.
His various cases of, he's got charges of inciting an erection.
Donald John Trump incited the erection.
They didn't like Donald Trump. They said he participated in an erection.
Let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an erection.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. You understand that?